Theology of Dance presentation, I'll be talking about the 4 rules of good connection, not only in dance, but the 4 rules of good connection for all relationship, whether it be with your dance partner, with your spouse, with your neighbor, following Jesus. It's even the kind of connection you actually find in the Holy Trinity. Okay? So the first rule of good connection is to never use your thumbs. We never want to be using our thumbs when we're dancing like this, okay? I got my hand pressing down here. She doesn't like this. It feels very uncomfortable with the pressure, okay? So it makes the connection uncomfortable. The second reason is it limits what we can do, right? I actually turn her, and this is about as far as we can go. If you're going farther, we're going to start hurting ourselves. So it limits what we can do, and it also makes it dangerous. We can hurt ourselves. Using our thumbs makes dancing boring, uncomfortable, and dangerous. Clinging in a relationship does the same thing. You can think about it when people are clinging in a relationship, when they don't trust you, when they keep you from doing, when they gotta know everything you're doing, right? It makes a relationship very boring. It makes it very uncomfortable. It makes it very dangerous. Okay. Instead with this regular swing hold, the regular dance hold, right? Her hands fit in mine. There's no thumbs. It allows for a lot of freedom. Okay. Here's another way to look at it. I mean, supposing you have a married couple, we were married, okay, and I feel like, Andy belongs to me and I belong to her. If I feel like I belong to her, I'm going to grab her wrist, something like this, okay, and she's going to do the same thing. Now, in this situation, first of all, it's very limited. I mean, this feels like a ball and chain kind of relationship. But if Andy decided that she wanted to leave the relationship, what would she have to do? Well, she lets go, but she's still in a relationship because I'm holding on. If she wants to leave the relationship, she needs to convince me to let go, either by force or by convincing me or whatever, by tugging. Okay? The flip side is that this typical dance relationship, which of course, in this situation, if Andy wanted to leave the relationship, what would she have to do? She can just leave. But she doesn't. She chooses to remain in relationship. The only thing keeping us, in fact, in relationship is our desire to be so. Why? Because I have the exact thing that Andy wants. I have the lead. The lead, of course, is the gift of myself and my masculinity. And I want to stay in a relationship because Andy has what I want. She has the follow, which is the gift of her in her femininity. Okay? So we actually have everything we ever wanted to as long as we stay in a relationship. We really have no reason why we would want to leave a relationship. So the first rule of good connection is never use your thumbs. Do not be clinging in relationship. Trust the other person and give them. So the second rule of good connection in relationship is to keep the connection quiet. If we were doing salsa, salsa's like this. All right, but just see beginners, and the beginners see some salsa dancers doing some connection, and they think, they're doing some styling. I'm going to do some styling too. I think I'm styling. I'm not really styling. What I'm really doing is I'm really giving all sorts of preps and leads and telling Andy, I'm going to turn you psych. I'm going to turn you psych. I'm going to turn you psych. It's actually a good foul, so she caught it. It's a general rule. In fact, it's a very common rule. It's a good rule. Women don't like abrupt surprises. They like gentle surprises, okay? To make sure that happens, I need to keep the connection quiet. So when it comes time to turn, you can see I don't like that. That's really abrupt and fast, and she doesn't like that. Okay? What I'm going to do instead, give her a couple counts to give her the prep, give her a couple counts to know that the turn's coming, and then turn it. It happens relatively quick, but there's still plenty of time for Andy to react to it and to react to it in the correct way. It's a surprise, but it's a gentle surprise. It's kind of like if your wife loves, say, the theater, you come home with tickets. She's like, I got tickets to the theater. She's like, great, when is it? Like in 5 minutes. She's like, She's got to get dressed and put her makeup on. Abrupt surprise. She doesn't like it. As long as she has plenty of time to get ready, it's going to be a good surprise. All right? So it's important in our connection too, because obviously you can't hear the lead if everything's all this gibberish in the background, okay? And so in our own lives, okay, if you're supposing the husband's sitting on the couch just watching the ball game, and the wife wants to talk to him, well, she probably turn off the ball game so that he can hear what his wife's saying. If God's trying to talk to us, we need to be able to hear him, that he is trying to talk to us. So we need to make sure that we're cutting all the noise out of our life. We get plenty of prayer time set aside, quiet time to hear God. So we don't spend a lot of time filling our life up with things like internet or the background or just talking to ourselves. All of these things make it difficult for us to hear the voice of God in our heart. So we need to make sure that we keep that connection nice and all right. The third rule of connection is the leaders initiate and the followers respond. Okay, and there's several different ways this takes effect, but this is one of the ways. And it starts off with something that we always struggle with, and that is knowing when to let go of the guy's hand. It's actually very, very simple. Women don't ever need to figure when to let go of the guy's hand. The guy will let go at the right time and make connection at the right time. Here's an example. It's a move called a hammerlock. Okay? Right. Now, of course, the hammerlock, it comes from, obviously, that term is used in wrestling. It sounds pretty vicious. But in truth, this is actually not bad at all. As long as you keep Andy's hand down nice and low and spin around, it's very comfortable. Okay? It's only when I try to get around her, so I can't do it wrong, I've done it right so many times. If I try to hold her hand up like this as it goes behind her back, it's going to hurt. All right? However, what ends up happening with a lot of beginner ladies is it's still going to feel maybe a bit odd. Your hand's going behind your back, you don't know what's going to happen, so you let go of the hand, and now, of course, you broke connection. Now, that means a couple things. First of all, this nice little line that we were going to get from the hammerlock is now gone. That's number one. The other reason actually is this actually might be the hand I'm going to lead the next part of the pattern out with, not this one. Okay? And so I needed this hand to make the next pattern work. Now, of course, I'm a very good lead, and God's an excellent lead. You can obviously put a new lead up and make it work. But still, she's no longer following the lead, and that's the point of the dance. She wants to follow the lead. Same thing with God. Sometimes we get in these situations where if we don't understand what good connection with God feels like, we're going to start to hit a rough patch and think, oh my gosh, God can't be leading me there. We let go of the connection, we do something else. The truth is, if we understand what good connection with God feels like, then we can actually maintain connection even through the tough parts. And we discover they weren't really that tough to begin with, that God was always there, he was always leading us, and that we wound up being something really beautiful and really wonderful. We got 3 rules of connection down, we got 1 rule to go, and this is, I think, one of the most important rules, if not the most important rule, and that is the leads need to be small and the follows need to be big. When the leads are really big and the follows are small, it's what I call a command and obey relationship. The person is that the follower is not more of a slave and is forced to the patterns, okay, as they come through, okay? They feel almost like a puppet, right? A small lead and a big follow is the opposite. It allows for the freedom on the part of the follower. This is a very important concept in dance, and that is, when we first start walking, the first part of our body that moves is not actually our foot, it's our chest. If you watch toddlers when they try to walk, you see they're kind of stumbling forward with their hands up, and they're basically, their chest is leading, and their feet are trying to catch up. So it's something you've been doing since you were 2 years old, maybe, if not even more. So as the lead, I take advantage of this principle to lead Annie. What I do is I'm going to lead her chest forward just an inch, and then she goes the rest of the way. All right? So I lead her heart just a little bit, and she applies the rest of the energy, the momentum. In swing, it's really pronounced. I step forward just an inch, and she goes, 6 feet or more. Okay? I call it the Elijah principle in swing, especially because it's after Elijah. Remember the story of Elijah in the cave, on Mount Horeb. There's an earthquake, there's a firestorm, and there's a windstorm. But God's not in any of those. Instead, God's in the still, small voice. And to that still, small voice, God had Elijah go anoint new kings for Israel and for Judah, and to anoint Elisha as his successor, as prophet. So from a very small lead comes a very big follow, because Elijah was a great saint who was filled with the jealous zeal of the Lord of hosts. So that God only had to move Elijah's heart a little bit And Elijah would go and do great things. And so, of course, we see this actually in dance. Small lead and a big follow. So as the lead, what I do is I am defining space and energy and momentum, but I'm not providing it. That comes from Andy, from the follower. And so we find that with the small lead and the big follow, that the saint gets to fully express who they are. Saints are not like really boring, uninteresting people, tepid and lukewarm. They're full of fire and passion and energy. And so we see that in the dance, that the follower, the best followers are the ones that are full of energy and passion and life. That I don't need to be pushing them through. Of course, the worst case scenario, obviously, well, Andy could be holding back, and I'm going to be forcing her through it. Worst case scenario, she could just, fall in a heap on the ground, and then when you'd actually carry her through, she'd be a puppet. She'd have no will. That's not what God wants. That's what God speaks, in fact, so quietly. He gives a small lead so we can fully express who we are and show the greatest level of trust possible in his lead. So those are the 4 connections you need for good relationship.